Oh, how's it going, ladies and gentlemen? It is a Monday evening. We are coming off the back of some very exciting A-League semi-finals, and we know the two teams that will be playing in the 2023 A-League Grand Final. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to do a bit of a live chat, Q&A. We're going to discuss the semi-finals, break down everything that happened, and then look ahead to the Grand Final. We're going to be doing plenty of content leading up to the Grand Final. We're going to do like a dedicated Grand Final stream thing preview where we'll go dive into it in depth. So tonight will be more about sort of talking about the semi-finals and breaking down what happened there. But we've already got some people in the chat. Barry was here a moment ago saying it was not a good ending for Adelaide United. Indeed, it wasn't. High hopes for the Reds, but they crashed out in the end. So because Mariners is in here saying Mariners are going to win the Grand Final 2-1. Love it, dude. It's going to be a huge matchup, that's for sure. Namma. I'm not sure whether that's the pronunciation we should go for. Let me know if you want me to call you by a different name. But Gaming Fanatics is in here. Will you be heading to the event on Friday before the Grand Final? For those that don't know, I saw that today. Actually, I was reading about that. They're revealing more slowly but surely about this festival of football that the APL have set up in the lead up to the Grand Final. I just want to know more about it, to be honest. I've only heard that it's like well, first of all, the weed thing, we'll touch on it now, considering you brought it up, Brock. But it's an interesting thing that they've set up there because it's over at Moore Park, which is right by Allianz Stadium. Of course, the Grand Final's happening at Combank Stadium, which is kind of bizarre. So I'd love to hear more information about it and what they're going to do. TG Georges is in here. How you going, mate? Says Marco Tilio is underrated. Yes, I agree. We're going to be talking about Marco Tilio in just a second as we discuss the Sydney City Grand semi-final. Jamal's in here. Says, "G'day, Lockie. How, mate? How's it going? Would love to see Vuka break the clean sheet record in the ground. Dude, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome, of course. Danny Vukovic keeping a clean sheet in the semi-final on the weekend, equaling the A-League record, so he could become the leading clean sheet goalkeeper in A-League history if Mariners managed to keep a clean sheet against City in the Grand Final. We've got VAT in here. Says City played insane. I went to the match and it was fantastic. Would be elite for the content, the Friday night event. Dude, I almost want to go along just to sort of document it, and my experience. I think, what do they mention in it? We have to pull it up later, but they talked about the festival football thing they're doing on that Friday night. They mentioned live music. There's going to be music, five-a-side football. I can't remember what else they mentioned, but yeah, I'm keen to see what else they do because they're talking about this whole week, how they're going to build it up. But I'm keen to see if anything else comes out. Angus in the chat, how's it going, mate? Says, do you think the Grand Final will be a sellout? I'd like to think it'd come close. I mean, I was there a few weeks ago for the Sydney Derby. Obviously, two Sydney teams there. The atmosphere was fantastic. I think we'll get a lot of Mariners fans there. I think we'll get a decent number of Melbourne City fans there. And I think there'll be a good number of neutral fans who will be attending the Grand Final. I do think so. I think it could well come close to a sellout, that's for sure. Just 30,000, I think. Is 30,000 the capacity for Combank? Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's bang on 30,000 or around that at least. Spencer in the chat, how's it going, mate? Hope you've had a good weekend. Says this finals thing has been a letdown in my opinion, especially no All-Stars. I assume you're talking about the week leading up to finals, not necessarily the entire final series. But that was obviously a big downside, the fact that we didn't have the All-Stars game, which was everyone expected to be happening next weekend in that week between the semi-finals and the Grand Final. Would have been awesome, but not this time around, unfortunately. Person 1201 says Wanderers fan, but we're so happy to see Mariners win, and that's the sentiment I've seen from a lot of fans, a lot of comments and messages that I've been getting across the socials and just the general chatter is that a lot of neutral supporters between City and I guess City and Mariners, really happy to see Mariners in a Grand Final. Tulio is an amazing Mariners player. Dude, Tulio is up there as one of the best players in the league. I don't think he gets enough recognition, and he was fantastic. What else we're saying here? VAT saying we're going to see the battle of Marco Tilio and Marco Tilio. Absolutely. And I feel like I always when I say their names, I feel like I accidentally always get them mixed around. Marco Tulio. Yeah, man. Troy's in here. How's it going, Troy? Hope you're doing well, mate. Says, go Mariners. What a night we had going to the grand final. Hope to see you too, Troy. It's going to be absolutely epic. So just Mariners in here. What else are we saying? Jamal, thank you for confirming that. Jamal, 30K capacity for Western Sydney Stadium, the home of Western Sydney Wanderers, Combank Stadium. Combank Stadium. All right. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the semi-finals. We're going to jump into the first one, and we're going to pull up our stats and graphics up here on Google. And Mariners, Adelaide. We have to talk about it first up, of course, because it was the highlight of the weekend. Not just for me being a Mariners fan, but I think everyone would suggest that this game was the highlight of the weekend for them. Huge occasion for the Central Coast. The big news, of course, being that this was the biggest crowd that the Central Coast Mariners have seen at a home game in their history. 20,059 people. It was completely packed. And it was really, really special. It was really, really special for us Mariners fans. And I know a lot of you guys are here in the chat have been Mariners fans for a long, long time. And, you know, I often talk about how I went to my first game when I was a wee youngster back in season 1. And we saw some great crowds, especially in those early years back in 2008 against Newcastle Jets, that second leg semi-final. And we cracked that crowd. We cracked that record. And the atmosphere was just unreal. But 2-0 to Mariners. Couple of things that I want to talk about. And the first thing that I want to look at are the lineups in this game. The thing that I think has really helped the Mariners in the last few months, the Mariners have been building some great form in the last few months. I think the thing that's really helped Central Coast Mariners is the consistency in the lineup. We haven't really seen any changes. And there's been no need to change. The Mariners have had a really good run with injuries in the fact that they simply haven't had many injuries at all. This back four is ridiculously underrated. I think Nectar Triantis is a future Socceroo. Brian Kaltak, I think with Brian Kaltak, we have to remember, and I was listening to, I was actually listening to the A-Leagues podcast today, and they sort of reminded me of it when they mentioned it. Brian Kaltak is playing his first season as a professional footballer. His first season as a professional footballer. And what is he, 28, 29 years old? The season that he has had, it's just been incredible for a player to come in and play at this level and match it with some of, you know, the best strikers that the A-League has ever seen. He has been absolutely superb. James McGarry, of course, fantastic in the first leg, put in a good shift in this second leg, as did Stormroo. Midfield has been fantastic. Josh Nisbet, Max Ballard, again, underrated is the word that comes up. And then we all know about the fantastic abilities of Sam Silvera, Marco Tullio, Jason Cummings, these guys winning the semi-final in the end. Talking about Adelaide United as well, I was really perplexed when I saw Adelaide's lineup because, look, all the talk, first of all, was around, you know, would Nestori Irankunda start? Does he have a place in the starting lineup? Hiroshi Ibasuki, their star striker, ruled out with injury, which was a big blow for the Reds. Adelaide being down, does Nestor Irankunda come straight into that starting lineup? He didn't, but I was almost thinking that this was an opportunity for someone like Luka Jovanovic to step up and, you know, on a big stage and have an opportunity. He would have had an opportunity to turn the semi-final tie around. And he had a really good run midway through the season, Luka Jovanovic. He's a very exciting striker, but Ben Halloran's starting up top. I think that's where Adelaide lost this semi-final. I think the lineup that they put together, it was very clear, you know, seeing what they were trying to do. They were trying to win that midfield battle, which they were just getting in that first leg. Mariners were just destroying Adelaide in that midfield. They brought in Ethan Alligic and really played, it was very much a 4-3-3 with Ethan Alligic and Dorigo sort of playing just ahead of Isai Isan in that midfield, trying to outnumber Max Ballard and Josh Nisbet. And to be fair, like, Mariners won this game 2-0, but it wasn't one-way traffic. I thought the first half was very even, especially. Adelaide created some great chances, and if you look at the stats, it's actually quite even. Adelaide did have a number of shots throughout the match, but I was really perplexed by this lineup. I thought it was very negative. I thought it was a very defensive lineup, and they needed to go for it. And it was ultimately Adelaide's undoing. We did see Nestori Irankunda come onto that second half, but once again, he was nullified by that Mariners defense. Of course, Jacob Farrell, who came on off the bench in that second half, which was great to see. And it's in my vlog. If you haven't seen the my vlog that I put up, came out yesterday of this semi-final, my Mariners Adelaide vlog. So much fun to film this one, but I didn't quite capture it in that vlog because it happened just before. But the raw, so Nestori Irankunda was ready to come on as a substitute, and the raw from the stadium when Jacob Farrell just sprints from the bench up to the halfway line, ready to come on, was insane. It was crazy. I've never seen such a loud roar for a substitute set to come on. So yeah, man, it was a very special night, very very special night. What else are we saying here? Why do you think Central Coast Mariners have beaten Adelaide every time this season? It's a good question. And like you maybe have to look at whether there's something in the formation or personnel where maybe Mariners just are ahead of Adelaide. I think Mariners have faced Adelaide at crucial times in the season where we've been in good form. I mean, 3 times in the last few weeks, we've been in great form in the last few weeks, Central Coast Mariners. But maybe it's something in terms of Adelaide, one thing I was talking about before, the consistency in Mariners lineup has really helped them. I think one of the things where Adelaide struggle a little bit is the lack of consistency in the lineup. I mean, we saw Alex Popovich come into the back line. In the elimination final and the semi-final first leg, it was Nick Ansell in that centre-back position. Earlier in the season, it's been Lockie Barr. Ben Wallen's been in and out. It's chopping and changing. So, whether that has something to do with it, that's for sure. Brock here talking about some Mariners players. Says, wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these Mariners players get picked up by the start of next season. There's some great opportunities for some of these young Mariners players to move abroad, and it's well deserved. It's well deserved. And a concern that I see get brought up a lot is whether the Mariners can continue to be successful if they keep losing these young players. Well, first of all, the club has made it clear that it is part of the club's philosophy to develop these young players and help them move forward in their career and sell them on and make a profit. And it's working so far for the club, and we've had a good history of it, especially in recent years. But I think what we've showed now with Central Coast Mariners, I mean, you especially look at it last year and heading into the season this year. Heading into the season, a lot of people predicted Mariners to drop away and fall out of that top 6 up, despite finishing in the finals for the second consecutive year. And, a lot of people pointing the finger to the fact that we had lost, Lewis Miller, Kai Rolls, Mark Birigidi, who is arguably the best keeper in the league last season. Who else did we lose? I mean, we lose Garen Kowal halfway through this season. What other names am I missing here? I'm sure there's a few there, but Marco Renya, another name. He was crucial to the Mariners for the last couple of years. He left the club. Mariners not only are, building some good consistency and building a good squad, but the recruitment that we're doing as well, I think is fantastic. And despite the fact that we're losing good players, we're bringing in good players. And again, you just look at this lineup. I mean, a lot of these guys weren't here last season. Nectar Triantis, Brian Kautak, completely fresh centre-back pairing. James McGarry, he was a mid-season pickup from Newcastle Jets. Sammy Silvera, the same from Newcastle Jets as well. Marco Tullio, his first season in the A-League as well. Brock also says, how is Sammy Silvera not a Socceroo? Hopefully we can see it soon enough, that's for sure. Hopefully we can see it soon. All right, what else are we saying here? Troy in the chat. Troy here, Mariners fan, says it was great that Farrell came on, coming on when Irankunda did. The commentators said they can't remember the last time they saw it happen in the A-League, where two players are brought on. Two players are brought on and one just to nullify. That's right, and the whole tagging role that Jacob Farrell has. And it was interesting. I think, wasn't it in the post-match press conference from a couple of weeks ago where Montgomery didn't necessarily say that was the case. It was more of McGarry was carrying an injury or an illness or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. And that was the reason why Farrell came on. But it's happened 3 times in a row now. So there's definitely something going on there, surely, with the Farrell and Irankunda battle. and it was fantastic to watch once again. But look, a fantastic result for Central Coast Mariners, obviously. 2-0. Again, another win over Adelaide United. And that's now 4 wins out of 4 for the Central Coast Mariners against Adelaide United this season, securing their place in their first grand final since 2013. And we take a look back behind me at the Sun jersey, which was from 2013, the 2013 grand final. So long ago now. Can the Mariners do it again? Can the Mariners do it again? That's the question. What else are we saying here? What else are we saying? Mariners also lost Aquilina, Yongo. It's a good point. Mariners lost a few players mid-season, didn't they? Aquilina, Yongo, Garen Kowal. There was some change. There was some change in the squad, wasn't it? Let's talk. We've got some other questions coming in here. Chuck, mate, Sydney FC fan. Would you consider Sydney FC's season a success or a failure? And if you guys have any other questions on sort of other topics around the A-League, feel free to send them in. This is a general chat as well. Would you consider it a success or a failure? It's a tricky question. It's not an easy one. If it was any other club, it'd be very, very easy to answer, I think. But it's tricky because Sydney FC, for much of the season, were pretty mediocre. We're pretty average. Held on, built some really good form towards the end of the season, finished 5th, secured their place in the top 6, and were 1 game away from the grand final. Had they have made the grand final, would it have been considered a success? You had, surely, right? Making the grand final. They were 1 game away, though, and you know, seeing the comments on social media, Sydney FC fans just aren't happy with the way the season has panned out. I think overall it's been a decent season for Sydney FC. But I think where they finished semi-finals is the bare minimum for a club of that size. The bare minimum, that's for sure. Newey Jets Football says, I love the atmosphere Saturday, although it took 1 hour to get to the stadium. Yeah, dude, the crowds were massive. The lines heading in were crazy. I've never seen it before. Fortnite in the chat says, hey, Lockie, congrats for your team. I was super disappointed in my Adelaide. However, it's good to see another team make the finals and not one of the big teams such as Victory, Sydney, etc. And that's right. It is exciting. It is exciting. You know, it is often sort of the bigger clubs, if you like, from, you know, Sydney and Melbourne making grand finals. But such as Mariners, I think a lot of people will be rooting for Mariners to get the win in the grand final. Ryan's in the chat. Ryan, how you going, mate? Says, do you see Brisbane ever making a comeback and becoming a force in the A-League again? Yeah, 100%. And I think like I don't think anyone's ever written off in terms of, you know, coming back and becoming a force. You know, we're seeing a club like Perth Glory rebuilding very well and had a decent season this year after having a dreadful, one of the worst seasons we've ever seen the year before. Just look at Central Coast Mariners. I mean, they're the topic of conversation at the moment. Central Coast Mariners picked up 4 wooden spoons in 5 years. People were wanting for the club to fold. A few years later, we're in the grand final. So Brisbane Roar absolutely can come back. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. You know, I don't know if we'll see Brisbane in the top 6 next year, but they've got to improve. They've got to improve. They're bringing in Ross Aloisi next year. I'm curious to see what they do. Were you surprised with the City and Sydney turnout? Yeah, the crowd, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of talk around that, but yeah, the crowd, well, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was just under 10K, right? At Amy Park for that semi-final. You would have hoped for more. Huh? All right, what else are we saying here? Jamal, what do you know about Central Coast Mariners playing in the second-tier AFC competition, AFC Cup? What do we know? Not too much. The draw is happening in a couple months' time, I believe. When was that draw happening? I think it was July, if I'm not mistaken. And then the competition is getting underway in September. Hey, I'm just excited to see Mariners back in Asian football. It's going to be great. We've got Melbourne City taking place. They'll be involved in the Asian Champions League, and then Mariners involved in the AFC Cup. Let's do it. What's your grand final prediction? Let's do it. Oh man, look. Okay. Look. If you guys have watched my predictions for a while, and I like to do my predictions before each round in the A-League, I like to try and not be too biased being a Mariners fan, which can sometimes be difficult. All I'll say, I'll give you a prediction in a second, but what I will say is that Mariners can win this game. Mariners can win this game. And the reason why is because we really took it to Melbourne City the last time we played them a few weeks ago, which was that pink round about a month or so ago now. We really took it to Melbourne City and had opportunities to win that game 2-1. The game ended 1-1. There is an opportunity for Mariners to win the game. Melbourne City are heading in favourites, as they should. This is, their fourth consecutive grand final. They've been the premiers 3 years in a row now. Huge favourites. Huge favourites, Melbourne City. David Goliath, that's how this grand final is being described. I mean, I'm going to give you a 3-2 prediction to Mariners. I'm going to give you 3-2 right now. That's just off the top of my head. We're going to be doing plenty more grand final prediction content coming up and preview content over the coming weeks. But yeah, man, that 3-2 to Mariners for now. Barry's here. How's it going? Barry says, congrats on the 2K subs. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. What transfer rumor of an A-League player excites you the most? Good question. We're obviously seeing a lot of transfer rumors circulating around. I mean, it's been confirmed, but the one I was pretty excited for, just because I think it's a good move for the player, is Angus Thurgate to Western United. Not a rumor anymore. It's been confirmed. I think that's a really, really good move for him. That's for sure. After the success of this season by Central Coast, do you think Nick Montgomery will make a move overseas next season? Potentially. I mean, no doubt after this season, he's absolutely attracting some interest. Surely he is. He's done a fantastic job with a very, very small budget. He's gotten this team together. He's pulled the squad together and turned them into the second best side in the competition. With a lot of players who are new this season, a lot of young players. He's done a fantastic job. I think he absolutely deserves a move overseas if he does get it. Will the Mariners fans bring the inflatable sauce bottles to CommBank? We'd love to see the sauce bottle to CommBank. That would be awesome. New Jets asks, what do you think of City's confidence heading into the final? Obviously, as they've been there and have experience in the grand final. That's one of the big talking points. So that's one of the big things that we have to remember heading into this grand final is that Melbourne City, they are used to this. This is where they're comfortable. They are used to qualifying for the grand final now. It's a regular occurrence. And I almost think that favors Mariners, which you wouldn't really think would be the case. But there's almost, I'm not going to suggest there's any sort of complacency from Melbourne City, but they sort of just have cruised through this season. And look, they've been the best. Like, don't get me wrong, Melbourne City are fantastic. They're deservedly premiers. They're the best team in the competition for sure. But Mariners are heading into this grand final, knowing that it was 10 years since they qualified for the last one. There was a really exciting and special energy around this group of players that we haven't seen in 10 years. I think there's a massive opportunity for Mariners to cause the upset. Fortnite, talking about Adelaide United, saying Adelaide better sort out that defense next season. In my opinion, Ben Warland has been let down, has been a letdown this season. Reminds me a bit of Jordan Elsey in terms of frequency of mistakes. Yeah, we saw it especially in that first leg. You think that Cummings goal that he scored in the first leg, Ben Warland just leaving him too much space. And, at the moment, this fullback combination of Yavi Lopez, Ryan Kito, does Yavi Lopez continue next season? I believe he was just on a 1-year deal for this season. Does he continue? Ryan Kito, I think, is a solid, very consistent player at left back. Does Joe Gauci get a move overseas? He's been great this season. I think Alex Popovich has a lot of potential still to develop. When you look at the bench, I think Lockie Barr is actually a decent centre back, and I was surprised that he didn't start over maybe someone like Ben Warland, because I think Lockie Barr's, in my opinion, probably their best centre back. It's going to be interesting to see what Adelaide do next season, maybe bringing in some more youngsters into that lineup. It will be fascinating, that's for sure. All right, we're going to talk about this Sydney City Grand Final in a few moments. We're going to see what's going on in the chat, though. And Spencer's bringing his Grand Final prediction. 3-1 City, goals McLaren, Silvera, Tilio to score the winner. Could see that happening. And that's the thing with the Grand Final. I can definitely see any scoreline happening. You know what I mean? It's one of those grand finals where any team could show up and tear it up. Ryan asks, is Mikkel Tadzi coming to Brisbane Roar? I have no idea. This is the first I'm hearing of it, if that's a thing. Mm. Um, Dude, that would be a great move for Brisbane Roar. That would be a great pickup. They desperately need a goal scorer. And Bika Mikaldadzi is a proven A-League goal scorer. Can you check the last lineup for Central Coast Mariners in the grand final? I can tell you off the top of my head. In fact, it's literally on this poster behind me. It was Matty Ryan in goals, of course. Pedge Bowich, Trent Sainsbury, Patrick Zvansvike, Josh Rose. Nick Montgomery was suspended for the 2013 grand final, so it was a defensive midfield partnership of John Hutchinson and Ollie Bizanik. And then we had did Bernie Abini start? Surely Bernie Abini started. Yeah, Bernie Abini definitely started with McGlinchey, Stajowski, and McBreen up top. Of course, no Mariners fan would forget that. Ollie Sales moving to Perth Glory next season. Big move for Ollie and big pickup for Perth Glory, that's for sure. Excuse me. Hello, what do you think of our rivalry, West Sydney Wanderers, with your Mariners, which is starting to develop? Yeah, I guess it's been going on, especially since that grand final, since the Wanderers came into the competition. I think it's a really exciting rivalry. It's almost like Sydney FC have obviously been sort of, I guess, are the oldest club in New South Wales in terms. Sorry, I should say in that Sydney area, and you get a sense that Mariners have a rivalry with Sydney FC, Wanderers have a rivalry with Sydney FC, and it's sort of completing that triangle now. So, there's been a long-standing rivalry, and we love it. It's always, especially this season with both teams being really close on the ladder. Would you like Schneiderlin? And Weston also interested? Hey, would love Morgan Schneiderlin, but I think the rumors were that he was heading to Western United. All right. Was unlucky. Was unlucky. Harry Van der Sar missed the whole season. Indeed, it was. It was a big move. Big move for him. Big move for him. Heading to Adelaide didn't quite work out for him, did it? Ryan saying 6-1 Mariners over City. Love to see it happen. Would love to see it happen. Hey, let's talk about Melbourne City and Sydney FC. And of course, the first talking point in this game is that red card in the 20th minute. Max Burgess, what are you thinking, son? 20th minute, and it was all downhill from there. To be fair, I mean, Melbourne City were looking pretty comfortable even before that, but that really affected the game. For Melbourne City, it just made it so easy for them just to walk over Sydney FC from there. I legitimately think, though, if Max Burgess hadn't been sent off early on in that semi-final second leg, Sydney FC were probably in with a chance. They did well in that first leg to hold the Premiers to a draw, 1-1 at home. We were at that game. We did a vlog for it. You can check it out on the channel if you want. It's in the description, I think, down below. But I almost wonder how this game would have panned out if Max Burgess had never been sent off. It was a well-deserved red card, of course. Deserving red card, I should say. But I think Sydney would have maybe just conceded one and could have hit back in that second half as it would have opened up a little bit. But they just had nothing going forward after that red card. You can see here goals to Curtis Good, who got his first goal of the season, an own goal, and then Marco Tilio with a superb finish, and then a Richard van der Ven goal was the goal of the night for me. That was a superb finish as well. And when you look at this lineup, I mean, we can talk about the grand final as well, and whether this lineup will be involved will this be the starting lineup for City in the grand final? And it could well be. But in my opinion, I don't think it will be. And I think it's because I think City will look to play another midfielder rather than Matt Leckie, sort of in that number 10 position, if you like. City went for a very aggressive lineup in the semi-final. Did bring Thomas Lamb into that back line to bench Callum Talbot. So it's going to be interesting to see how City line up because they do like to shuffle things around a little bit. I think Matt Leckie, Tilio, and McLaren start up front. I think Andrew Naboot will drop to the bench for the grand final, and either Van der Ven or Baron Gare to slot into midfield. I think Melbourne City will need those three midfield players in there in order to handle the likes of Max Ballard and Josh Nisbet. The Sydney FC, though, it'll be interesting to see which of these players continue in next season. Was this the last time we saw the likes of Alex Wilkinson, Adam Lafondra, who else? Even Jack Rodwell in a Sydney FC shirt? Maybe. They could look to, I mean, especially someone like Alex Wilkinson. He has had a fantastic career, and he's been a fantastic servant to the A League over so many years. I was really excited, especially when I saw the lineup. I saw, Adrian Segicic in the lineup, and I was excited for a player like him to get an opportunity, but he had nothing going forward. This just wasn't the game for him after Sydney picked up that red card. The interesting one, though, was Joe Lolly starting on the bench once again with no Robert Mack. I mean, Segicic started because of no Robert Mack, but Joe Lolly not starting in this game despite Mack dropping out, which was interesting. You can't, almost wonder whether Sydney would have had a chance if the class, someone with the class of Joe Lolly was on the field. Talking about that Max Burgess tackle, BAT says the tackle was horrible, dude. It was not good. It was initially on the first viewing, I was like, oh, was it like, was it that bad? And then they showed that like reverse angle, and I was like, oh. It was absolutely a red card. Boz says Max Burgess carried FC the whole season. He was their best player for me. I think Max Burgess was fantastic. Highlight for Sydney FC for Max Burgess was that, of course, the goal in that second derby at Parramatta. JD's in the chat, says, as always, great content, mate. Love these Q&As. Yeah, we're hoping to do more of these. So, JD, hope you're doing well, mate. John P7 asks, do you think Corica should stay on next season? No, I don't think so. I think Steve Corica is a good coach. I mean, he's won championships. He's won silverware. To say that he's a bad coach would be incorrect. But I think Sydney FC do need to do a little bit of a rebuild. I think they need some different ideas when it comes to the coaching department. I think they need some different personnel. Someone like, we were just looking at that lineup just a second ago, but Adrian Segicic, would love to see him get some more minutes on the pitch. I still think Anthony Caceres has a lot to offer. Look, there's a good side there at Sydney FC. They don't need to do like a full rebuild. But I'm curious to see what they do with the Sky Blues next season. But yes, I do think they need to try and shake it up a little bit. And I don't think Corica should stay on for next season. But that's just me. VAT asks, do you think Sydney will drop down next season or get better? Sydney FC, it's a good question because they finished sort of very close to mid-table at 5th. Do I think Sydney FC will get better? It's a good question. It's a really, really good question. Look, they improved this year compared to the season before. Obviously, they missed out on finals the season before. I'm cautious to answer that question because it's going to be all about who they bring in and what happens in the coaching department. Does Corica stay on? What players do they bring in? What does their squad look like for next season? So it's really hard to say. They're a big club and they've got great resources. You'd expect them to improve. You'd expect them to finish higher than 5th next season. They should be. But it's going to be all about who they bring in. That's for sure. Hey, we've got some other questions coming in here, so let's chat about them right now. Casual Lads FC in the chat. How's it going? Says, what do you think of Perth Glory? I think Perth Glory are doing a decent job at the moment, have had a decent season. Zadkovic is a very underrated coach and has done a really good job to take Perth Glory from one of the worst teams we've seen in A-League history last season to a really competitive side. There's some good young players in that squad, that's for sure. Taggart asks, Inter, AC Milan, Liverpool, Bayern, who would you want Irankunda to join? First of all, it's just how exciting is it that we have a extremely talented young player here on our shores in the A-League, playing week in, week out, who's getting interest from some of the biggest clubs on the planet in Inter Milan, AC Milan, Liverpool, Bayern. Look, whether these are just rumors or legitimate interest, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't mind who he joins. I'm not an Adelaide United fan, but I'm a Nestori Irankunda fan. I'm a Socceroos fan. I want him to be at a place where he's going to be nurtured and he's going to, obviously if he goes to one of those big clubs, he's going to be loaned out, of course. Hopefully there's a pathway for him there. And I'm excited to see how he goes. Spencer says Bayern, surely. What else are we saying here in the chat? So good to see some of you guys here, by the way. This is great. This is the first sort of Q&A thing that we're trying. And if you guys are enjoying this kind of thing, we'll keep it going. We'll make this a regular occurrence. So good to see so many people tuning in. And we've got plenty of comments and questions coming in 12:01. Good question. Did you go to every game when the Mariners were terrible a few years ago? And if you did, how did you keep on going despite the terrible results? Did I keep going? Yes. And I can prove it. Just give me a second here. We've got over here in my backdrop. We've got a scarf here, and not to get all Mariners on you, but this scarf, and I showed it in the live watch along the other night from the 17-18 season. That was probably a season. I can't remember off the top of my head. That was probably a season where we picked up the wooden spoon, but that was a member scarf from that season. And yeah, you keep going because there's always hope that that we're going to turn it around. And every year you rock up, regardless of where your team finishes the season before. Could this be the season where my team turns it around and have a dream season? For Mariners, it didn't happen for a long time, but yes, definitely stuck by the club through those tough years for sure. And it's a good question. How did you keep going despite the terrible results? I think I think Mariners fans can understand this, and like a lot of you guys here, I know you're really passionate fans of your clubs, and you will understand this sentiment as well. But there's something about, especially when you've been following your club for a long time, you feel a sense of that attachment to that club, that you're not gonna depart the club. You're not gonna not show up even when they're struggling. It's all about going through, even when that relationship is going through a tough time. Even when your team is struggling, it's all about continuing to show up season after season. Jamal says, got all my members' caps and scarves from those years, showing it to be worth the wait. Absolutely. Thoughts on Victory? Let's talk about Melbourne Victory. Melbourne Victory are an enigma, aren't they? Let's talk about Melbourne Victory because they're arguably the biggest club of the competition, and they're going to be one of those teams where we're going to be really interested to see what happens in and around the club over the off season, because they need to do some rebuilding. Melbourne Victory, don't they? Again, though, it's similar. It's a similar thing to Sydney FC. I say that, but you look at Melbourne Victory on paper, and there's a really good squad there. I think Bruno Fornaroli still has a lot to offer in the A-League. I mean, they've got two very experienced centre-backs in Damien De Silva and Roderick Miranda. There's experience all over the team there at Melbourne Victory. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out. It's one of those weird ones. Like, a lot of people ask me in the live watch-alongs that we do, where does it go wrong for Melbourne Victory? And I just go, I don't know. Like, does anyone know? Like, where's it gone wrong for Melbourne Victory? I don't know. They've got one of the most successful coaches in the league in Tony Popovich, and they've got proven winners in that squad. It's really weird. Having said that, I think Melbourne Victory will bounce back next season. I think Melbourne Victory will be playing finals next season. Speaking of Melbourne Victory, their captain has been rumoured to be heading to Western United. Thoughts on Brilliant Head of Western United, asks Ryan Football. Not crazy surprising, I guess. He was sort of on his way out. He was being benched for a lot of games towards the end of the season. And Western United need defensive midfielders, so it makes sense. Spencer's a Brisbane Roar fan here. And Spencer says, hopefully Ross Aloisi brings musket-level football to the club. Hoping we nail our signings this time. We need consistency. And yes, we need a bloody striker. And absolutely, they do, Brisbane Roar. And yeah, you mentioned the signings there, Spencer. Brisbane Roar fans have been suffering with their signings just not working out. When you think of the season before, Juan Lascano, the Argentine striker, didn't really get going. Charlie Austin, that was a disaster. They're mid-season signings. Marcel Canardi, he barely played a minute. Did he even play at all, Canardi? Their mid-season signing. Robbie Cruz only played a handful of minutes. He arrived mid-season. Goodness me, they need to sort out their recruitment, and they need to sort out the striker situation, don't they? Indeed. Heath, how's it going, Heath? That's a good question here. Do you think Corica overrode the success of Arnold, in your opinion? It's a tricky one. I think Graham Arnold's definitely the better coach. I don't think we can disagree on that one. I don't think so. Ryan says, yes, as a Raw fan, I think Ross Aloisi will be a success. I just have that feeling. He's very experienced when it comes to the A-League, and he's got a big opportunity here at Brisbane Raw. Spencer says, Robbie Cruz, play of the season after playing 14 minutes or whatever it was in a few months ago. And Skepovic as well. Yeah, that he goes into that list of striker signings that just haven't worked out for Brisbane. The last three international strikers that they signed, Juan Lezcano, Charlie Austin, Stefan Skepovic, none of them have worked out. None of them have worked out. Oh, my goodness. So much to talk about. So much to talk about. Do you think the Mariners can sustain this success long term? It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky, as it always is, with so many other teams recruiting so well. But we'll pull up this Mariners lineup again and have a look at it and talk about some of these players, which will help sort of the explanation a little bit. But I think so. I think so. And I think Mariners can sustain long-term success, because I think when you look into how we were heading into this season, a lot of people predicted Mariners to fall away. And despite, once again finishing in finals for the second consecutive year, I think we will stick around there. I think we will stay in the top six and sustain some success, because there's been a really good there's a good conveyor belt of talent coming through the club now. And last season, a lot of people predicted us to struggle because we lost the likes of, Lewis Miller, Kai Rolls. We lost Mark Birighitti, who was arguably the best goalkeeper in the league the season before. Can the Mariners sustain this long-term success? We've shown in the last couple of years now that we can, despite losing quality players. And look, surely some of these players will be heading overseas. Surely, I mean, someone like Josh Nisbet, who's played over 100 A-League games now, just fantastic. I think Max Ballard is incredibly underrated. Sammy Silvera could easily fit into a team in Europe, maybe in one of the lower leagues. There's talk of Jason Cummings departing the club to India. Marco Tullio should be playing in Europe. He is far too good for the A-League right now. Someone like Nectar Triantis, I think has flown under the radar this season and could score a move overseas as well. So, look, I might be biased coming from a Mariners fan, but I think we can sustain that success. Okay, Shadow asks, how much longer do you think the Jets can go without an owner? I think if we don't have an owner by the end of the season, we may fold. Look, it's concerning for Newcastle, that's for sure. And look, I'm a Mariners fan, and I don't want Newcastle to fold. I mean, it's a great rivalry that we have, Newcastle Jets, and they've got a great history, Newcastle Jets. Hopefully it gets sorted out sooner rather than later. Hopefully it happens. Justin says Jamie Young heading to Melbourne City is very interesting. It is an interesting one. That's a rumor. I don't think it's been confirmed yet, has it? But that was one of those goalkeeping rumors that we've seen among some other goalkeeping rumors. Potentially Tom Glover heading overseas, not to Wrexham. I think he confirmed the other day. I think it's a good signing for Melbourne City. Jamie Young, how old is he? Someone check. Someone mentioned it in the chat. How old is Jamie Young? I think he's like 38 now or something. Despite his age, I mean, he's still got so much to offer in the A-League. He had another good season at Western United, and Melbourne City, with a club of that stature, wanting to have successful seasons consistently, you need a successful and consistent goalkeeper. I think Jamie Young is that. I think Jamie Young can provide that. Talking about those goalkeeping moves, Justin also says Ryan Scott will go to Newcastle, and we will lose Heward Bell to West United. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if all these moves happen. We're getting a few different ages here. 38, Jamie Young's 38. Justin says 37. Perhaps somewhere out there. So there we go. There we go. There we go. Jamal says Jamie Young confirmed not young. Not young. Well, in football terms, at least. In football years. All right. So we've got 15 minutes to go. We're going to jump off in about 15 minutes. So if you guys have any more questions or anything, feel free to throw them in the chat right now. Again, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. If you are enjoying the stream, if you're enjoying the Q&A format here, great getting you guys involved here in the chat. I'm seeing all the comments fly in. Hit like. That's a good way to show your support. And yeah, man, appreciate it. We're talking about all the different clubs at the moment and thoughts on Adelaide next season. I think the Reds will once again have a successful season. They do it every year. The question for Adelaide United is, can they make it to the grand final? Do they keep slipping up in the semi-final? Is this the third season in a row where Adelaide have dropped out, or is it the fourth? Costa, you're an Adelaide fan, so you'll know. Is this the third or fourth season in a row where Adelaide have slipped in the semi-finals? Seems to keep happening. They've got a good squad there. They've got a good squad there, Adelaide United. There's no reason why they won't continue their success. Personal question, but go for it, Justin. What's your age? Justin, I want you to guess. Justin. How old do you think I am? Spencer says, we need to talk about the government building an AFL stadium in Tassie, but still no Socceroos facility. Yeah, hopefully we'll see that Socceroos facility set up soon, and because we need it. The Socceroos deserve it. They do indeed. Costa, just on Adelaide United, says, third, 4 years ago, we were a point off finals, and 5 seasons ago, we lost on pens to Perth in that semi-finals. So that's four. So that's four out of 5 years now where Adelaide have been knocked out in the semi-finals. 4 out of 5 years. That's tough. Dude, that's almost tough. Look, being a Mariners fan, dude, we haven't made a grand final in 10 years. That's almost as painful. What would you guys rather? Would you rather your team miss out on a grand final across 10 years? Or would you want your team to consistently make the semifinals, or the alternative, which was, getting knocked out in 4 semifinals across 5 years? Yeah. We've got some age guesses coming in, and Sydney football's bang on. I am indeed 28. Sorry, no, 27. Oh my God, I almost forgot my age there. 27. That's hilarious. 24. Appreciate the guess, Spencer. When you get to your late 20s, you legitimately forget your age. I hate finals with a passion, says Costa, being an Adelaide fan. Adelaide is sick of Adelaide fans are sick of seeing their side getting knocked out in the semi-finals. Socceroos playing Argentina and China. Yeah, announced today. Great, huge for the Socceroos, right? Would have been great to see it being played in Australia, but yes, it's awesome that we're just playing Argentina again. That's cool. That's cool. You're going to the grand final, Lockie. Going to be a great Mariners turnout. Yes, of course, I will be there. First grand final in 10 years. Shadow says apparently the Argentina coach chose Australia personally. Really? There you go. Troy says Wanderers finally finished in a position that matches their reputation. Could have gone further, a further arrival of ours, but I was surprised how many good players they had this season. Look, yeah, they finally did it. They finally matched up to where their team sort of sat, on paper. Because I think the last couple of years now, I predicted Wanderers to finish in fourth. I think bang on in fourth. Last year didn't work out, but this year I got it. That was like one of 2 predictions I think I got right. Was Wanderers to finish in fourth. Yeah, they've been building a good squad the last few years, but this time it finally worked out, didn't it? Finally worked out. Barella's probably going to leave West Sydney Wanderers, says Sydney footballer. We'd love to see him stick around again. He's been a great addition to the A-League this season. Great addition. Phil's in the chat says, speaking about Socceroos Argentina, says Australia pushed Argentina all the way in the World Cup. Absolutely, we did. And look, maybe that's why this game has been this game is going ahead. People want to see that rematch between Socceroos and Argentina, which is just awesome. And we'll definitely be doing a watch along. We'll definitely be doing a watch along for that game when it comes around next month. It's gonna be great. Daniel here saying, "Love your work, mate. Keep it up." Thank you, man. Appreciate it. VAT says, score prediction for Socceroos Argentina. Let's go. Oh, dude, should I just go for an Australian win? Should I just go for an Australian win? No, there's no way, right? I mean, it's the world champions. I'd like to think we'd score a goal. Let's go 3-1 Argentina. Mitchell Duke to bag one against Argentina. 3-1 Argentina. There's no way we're going to win, is it? All All right, we're going to go for another 10 more minutes, so feel free to throw in any more questions or anything that you guys might have. And yeah, man, this has been fun. This has been good. What else we got? Goodwin will be the goal scorer. Would love to see Goodwin get to bag a goal against Argentina. Spencer says Arnold should start the same squad against Argentina. Yeah, I guess so, just to see how it pan out again. I guess so. It'd be great to see someone like Nestor Kunda come on against Argentina. Like, that'd be fun, right? That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Shadow says Socceroos to win 3-0. Volpato scores 2 and Irvine scores 1. If Volpato wants to play with the Socceroos, that's the first problem, isn't it? Bobby says, will a week layoff for the grand final affect Mariners' momentum? I assume you're asking the Bob. Good question. It's a great question because, there's 2 weeks off here. Sorry, just the 1 week off, I should say. The 1 weekend off before the grand final. I don't think so. And I say that because Mariners have just gone through, both teams, Melbourne City Mariners, have gone through a weekend break in the elimination finals just a few weeks ago, and both teams bounced back pretty well despite that break. So I think it'll be all right. George says best academy in the league is Sydney's. George is a fair shout. I mean, they produce fantastic young players there. When you look at Marco Tilio's come through there, Callum Neuenhoff. I mean, basically Wanderers' entire squad is just Sydney FC Academy products. So there's plenty of good young players who've come through Sydney FC, that's for sure. Sam, how's it going, man? Says based on the turnout at Blue Tongue. It's been a long time since I heard that name. Do you think the A-League, for those that don't know, Blue Tongue Stadium is Industry Group Stadium, home of the Central Coast Mariners. Do you think the A-League would ever host a grand final in Gosford? Should Central Coast Mariners get hosting rights? I'd love to say yes, but I don't think so. After we should have hosted the grand final in, was it the 2008 one? 2008, we should have hosted the grand final, and it was moved to Sydney. So I don't think so. Man. Talking about academies again, Costa reckons Adelaide has the best youth in academy. There's some great young players at Adelaide too. Great young players at Mariners. Let's just be thankful for there's a great number of young players coming through Australian football at the moment. Segicic is amazing. I agree. Segicic is incredibly talented. Costa's listing off some Adelaide youngsters. The Toure brothers, Yengi, Nestroy. You've mentioned both Toures there. Dukali and Moore. That's right. VAT asks, what are your thoughts on Geordie Boss to Belgium? Great move. Fantastic move. And he's so good, Geordie Boss. He's so good. And I say that after seeing him in person like a month ago when Mariners played City, the Mariners home game hosting City. And you see him in person, and he's a beast. He's a beast. He's so good. He's so good on the ball. Physically, he would be terrifying to come up against as a right fullback. Seeing Geordie Boss just run at you with the ball. He's got so much already to his game, and I can't wait to see how he goes in Europe. So I think it's a great move for him. And excited for him. And indeed, Sydney footballer, Australian. Australia has a bright future. Indeed, they do. All right, 5 more minutes before we jump off. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. If you guys have any more questions or thoughts, feel free. Well, I slipped up on that one. Feel free to throw them in the chat. That's what I was going to say. Feel free to throw them in the chat. Interesting one. Let's talk about this. Shadow says, I reckon Boss will play on the left wing for Socceroos. Interesting. I think he could do it. I mean, his attacking abilities are fantastic. I don't think we'll see it happen just because Australia have a very good list of wingers, especially on that left wing. When you got Craig Goodwin, who's probably the first choice left winger for the Socceroos right now. Ail Mobile, Martin Boyle could play over there. Whether Garen Kowal wants to play off the left wing. So many players there. So I think he'll be the left back. I think Geordie Boss will be the Socceroos left back for the next decade. Garva, good question. Mariners Player of the Year for you. It's a really tough one because so many players have been fantastic. Oh, like it's hard. Like legitimately, you could go Cummings, you could go Tulio, you could go Nisbet, you could go Caltac, you could go Silvera. It's hard. Look, the one name that I'm leaning towards, and I don't know if I'm gonna like lock this in as like my official, like this is my play of the season. Brian Caltac. Brian Caltac is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Oh my goodness. He's been superb this year. He's been superb. Do you think Nani is a flop? I mean, it's tricky to say because he just didn't get to play, right? I mean, it didn't work out, did it? It didn't work out, did it? But I think if he, look, I think if he'd stayed fit, I think he would have. I think he would have bagged a handful of goals. I think he would have been all right. I think he would have been all right. Sydney Footballer says future Australia attack. Falami at striker. Theo Harris at left wing or Segacic. Right wing Tilio or Kunda. Yeah. I don't know about Falami. I think the one name in there that I'm like, oh, is Ben Falami after this season. Yeah. All those guys have had a decent season. Theo Harris maybe still has a bit to go, but Ben Falami. Ben Falami really struggled this year, didn't he? Shadow says Michael Rojas might be coming back to the A League. Pretty sure we'd love to see it happen. He's a fantastic player. Who knows? Maybe back at Melbourne Victory for yet another stint at the club. For yet another stint. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Jamal saying, talking about Nani, says, was an injury risk, and he got injured. They gambled and lost, I'd say. What a real shame Nani didn't stick around to be any kind of ambassador. Should be part of being marquee. Yeah, that was. I was really disappointed with that too, Jamal. When we saw, it was just on Instagram, right? We just saw on Instagram that he was spending time, I think in Portugal, like overseas. And look, like if he wants to do that, like that's his choice. Like whatever. If the Mel Victory are cool with him doing that, like whatever. He's got the right to do whatever he wants. But yeah, it would have been great. It would have been great to see him stick around, and especially considering that Melbourne Victory really struggled this season, it would have been great having an experienced footballer in Nani, around the changing rooms, talking to young players like Leighton Brooks, like Ben Falami, like Nishan Velupale, lifting their heads when things were down, and that maybe could have helped Melbourne Victory finish high up the ladder this season. But yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame, and from what we hear, he's not returning next year, which is disappointing. Jamal also says, also a suggestion that Roy Krishna would return. Would love to see that. Roy Krishna tore it up at Wellington Phoenix a few years back. Oh my goodness. And lastly, one more question. When's the next Career Mode episode? Enjoying it so far? The end of this week. Before the weekend. Yeah. If you guys haven't seen it, we've been doing a FIFA Career Mode with Brisbane Raw, doing a Brisbane Raw rebuild, which has been a lot of fun. It has been very, very fun indeed. Guys, thanks so much for tuning into this A-League's Q&A, talking about the semi-finals, looking ahead to the grand final a little bit, and of course, just the general chat and Q&A that's coming through the chat here. If you guys have enjoyed this, let me know now. Have you guys enjoyed this kind of thing? Would you be keen for this to be a regular occurrence? Let me know. And if so, maybe we can tee something up here. Maybe a sneaky Monday night, like after every round, like a Monday night chat where it's casual. We come in here, we talk about the games, we talk about any news. It's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy it. VAT says, I enjoyed this. Great to hear it. Garva says, yes, do it more. Great to see it. Sydney Football has loved it so much that says, do another one tomorrow. Maybe we should just do one every night leading up to the grand final. That won't happen, but we'll definitely do one. We'll definitely do a couple more before the grand final. We've got so much to talk about with the grand final, so many narratives, so many storylines. Jamal says, cheers for this chat, Lockie. Appreciate your insight. Thanks so much, mate. Appreciate it. Jason says, a Monday night review sounds good. Wednesday watch football review, says Spencer. It would, you got the alliteration there. You got the alliteration. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your weeks. We've got a big couple of weeks coming up. I've got some videos coming out over the next couple of weeks. Brisbane Roar career mode. Check out the vlogs if you haven't. The Mariners Adelaide vlog that we filmed on the weekend, which is out right now on the channel, was so much fun to film. If you guys haven't checked it out, please do so because yeah, it was big. It was a big night. It was an emotional night. And we got the Sydney City vlog, which was out. We got the Sydney W vlog. We've got vlogs from every week of finals. So check it out. Check it out if you guys are keen on that kind of thing as well. And yeah, might see you guys on the next one real soon. And if you guys want to keep up to date in terms of when the next live stream will be happening, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're following on the socials, and you'll definitely see some announcements real soon. Guys, my name is Lockie. This is Coast Sport Football, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.